The Fall of an Empire, Tales of Xelebara. The lands of Xelebara is and has always been many things through time. Located in the East Yucatan Sea, the nation of Xelebara started its beginnings like many others, collective of feudal kingdoms vying for dominance. Not much is known about Xelebara's beginning except for the great unification rallied by Lady Maria Reynosa in 1798. Facing an existential threat from a forgotten and ancient foe, Lady Reynosa unified the banners of the 8 kingdoms under one army. Following tremendous losses but ultimate victory, the 8 kingdoms remained united and declared Lady Reynosa, Queen of Xelebara, except one. Throughout her reign, Queen Reynosa standardized the nation's currency and established the first bridges to the mainland, finally connecting a once fragmented nation. To the rest of the world, the bridges would become a symbol of Xelebara's unity and ingenuity, as they were the first of their kind to traverse such vast distances across the sea. The 3 bridges connected Querson to Pelta to the mainland as well as Bacari and Reynosa. The bridges sparked a major boom in the economy as trade became mainstream across the kingdom. Queen Reynosa married Prince Col Aurelius in 1804 and had multiple children. Following the tragic sinking of their royal flagship, the Resolute, in 1828, their firstborn Prince Alexander Aurelius ascended to the throne at the age of 24. King Aurelius set himself apart from his mother. In 1868, King Aurelius sought to expand Xelebara and established the Xelebaran Empire, naming himself the Emperor. In 1869, Emperor Aurelius launched a campaign to conquer an archipelago to the south. The archipelago was claimed by Istren, and the seizure led to skirmishes both at sea and on the islands themselves. Following a stalemate in the south, Emperor Aurelius launched a new campaign to capture the 4 islands in the northern archipelago. Due to an untimely death from the plague, his ambitions for a greater empire would come to an end in 1873. His son Thomas Aurelius ascended to emperor and continued his father's quest for more lands. While the Archipelago War of 1869 dragged on in the south, the Empire of Xelebara successfully laid claim to the islands in the northern archipelago, although their claims were not recognized by the world and have not till this day. In 1908, following decades of peace with the Ramar Republic, the one kingdom that refuted unification under Reynosa was annexed by royal decree. The move by Emperor Aurelius II was one that sought to solidify complete hegemony over the lands that called themselves Xelebara. The annexation would not go unopposed, however, as the people of the Ramar Republic put up a valiant yet futile fight against the armies of the 7 Banners. In less than 6 months, tens of thousands of Rimaran troops lay slain across the city of Ramar as imperial troops marched into the besieged capital. Finally, in late 1908, Ramar capitulated, and their democracy ceased to exist. Although the beacon of democracy had fallen, the ideals of their nation lived on in their people. In 1927, at the age of 72, Emperor Aurelius II and the royal family died in a fire at their Reynosa estate. The cause of the fire is still unknown, but many at the time speculated it as an assassination. Following the deaths of the emperor and his heirs, the lords of the 8 provinces formed an emergency government. This government, which still had a monarchy, was ruled by Congress and the guidance of the National Church of Xelebara. While many claimed the throne, none had the evidence to prove their birthright. After nearly 300 years without an emperor, the people of Xelebara had almost begun to forget they ever had one. Life went on and many still claimed the throne, but none had gotten close to seizing it over the years. That was until Prince Aurelius and Prince Reynosa both laid claim to the throne in 2223. While having the namesake of the last emperor, Prince Aurelius' claim to the throne was denied as the Lords and Church of Xelebara favored the last living descendant of the famed Queen Reynosa. They hoped as before that a Reynosa would once again bring prosperity to Xelebara, as the first queen did so many millennia ago. Following Prince Reynosa's coronation at the young age of 24, the empire of old was brought back to life. But as hope began to spark in the hearts of the lords, our old enemy would come back to haunt the empire for its misdeeds. The province of Ramar had always held on to its roots of freedom and rebelliousness, but it had been millennia since it took arms against the empire. Resentment for imperial rule had festered and grown unchecked in Ramar for nearly 300 years, and only a spark would set off the fires of liberation. Taking advantage of the instability following the Pelta incident in April of 2201, the people of Ramar held a referendum to secede from the empire. Following overwhelming support for secession, the empire cracked down hard. The governor of Ramah was arrested for high treason and executed. As protesters rose up, the response from the royal guard was swift and multiple protesters were killed in the riots. Eventually, with the main leaders of the secessionist movement arrested or killed, the flame of rebellion once again retreated. The Pelter incident, April 17, 2201. Following the development of the first Conklin space engine and its fuel, Consium, an engine test went terribly wrong and caused a Class 5 disaster incident. The explosion originated from Conklin Space Labs facility off the coast of Pelter. The detonation of the engine ignited all stores of Consium at the facility and produced a shockwave that leveled the city of Pelter, 20 miles away, the capital of the Pelter province. Following an imperial investigation, it was found that a defective valve allowed raw fuel to be injected into the engine, which in its unrefined state caused a massive explosion. A total of 13,157 people died, and more than 346,676 were injured in the explosion. This incident sparked the single largest humanitarian effort in the history of Xelebara. Tens of thousands of soldiers and volunteers descended on the city of Pelter to care for the injured. 23 years have passed since the incident, and the city of Pelter has been rebuilt, but the scars of the explosion still dot the landscape. New regulations mandate that all testing of Consium fuel or space engines are to be done at least 153 miles off the coast or in space. The Pelter incident is regarded as the single deadliest disaster in Xelebaran history. The beginning of the Second Ramah Rebellion was unlike others. While the fervor of resentment lingered in Ramah, many had come to accept the fact that the empire was a force to be reckoned with. Seeing the past rebellions and the discontent for imperial rule, Congress assumed a laissez-faire approach, believing that less intervention would decrease tensions. This, however, only fueled discontent as the inaction of the imperial government led to rampant poverty and crime in Ramah. In November of 2222, protest rising crime rates and food shortages in Ramah led to the killing of 23-year-old activist, Jonathan Cabello, during a protest-turned-riot. While the details of the protest and subsequent shooting were unclear, protest erupted throughout the province. In response, a new faction rose to popularity throughout the region, the Ramah Republic Coalition. Days after the shooting, tensions increased further as masked gunmen broke into the home of a royal family member and killed all but one. This unnamed royal lost her husband and daughter in the home invasion. Following a visit from Emperor Reynosa, tensions flared as many saw it as a show of force, as thousands of imperial guards were deployed to the province to secure it for the emperor's arrival. The withdrawal of imperial guards as the emperor returned to the capital marked the start of the Second Ramah Rebellion. Mere hours after his departure, the Navy headquarters in Ania and the House of Lords in Ramah were bombed, killing hundreds. With the death of the Secretary of the Navy and over a dozen lords in Ramah, Emperor Reynosa was compelled to act. The response was swift, as 120,000 troops were called to march on Ramah to pacify the state following evidence that the provincial governor was behind the attacks. But after a humiliating defeat at Jeddah, the tide of the war turned. As Ramah gained the initiative, Imperial Special Forces conducted a raid at the home of Ramah's leading general. In the raid, the Special Forces accidentally killed the general's family. This was seen as barbarous by Ramah, and shortly thereafter documents leaked, implicating the crown in the creating of a deadly virus that was ravaging the world. In the leaked documents, it showed evidence of a secret intelligence agency within the empire that orchestrated the SARS-CoV pandemic. It also implicated the emperor's right hand as the mastermind behind the agency and the pandemic. This treachery turned even some of Empire's staunchest supporters against it, as even they had lost people to the virus. Following the leaked documents, the Empire went into full damage control. They announced an imperial investigation. The international community condemned the allegations and called for a criminal tribunal at the United Nations. Additional losses at Kaina and Bastrop led to the final declaration of Emperor Reynosa. At 3:04 p.m., January 4, 2223, Emperor Reynosa announced that the empire that reigned for hundreds of years would be no more. A provisional government was quickly formed, and Analia Cordova of the Kherson province was chosen to be interim president by both the House of Lords and the Ramah rebels, to foster a smooth transition until elections could be organized. Throughout the ages of the empire, it underwent many trials and tribulations, but never had it ever been conceived that it would cease to exist. The news of the Empire's collapse sent shockwaves throughout the international community. But as the beacon of liberty consumed the once towering empire, a new force lay in wait for her day of reckoning.